Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Unstoppable Dad Project. I appreciate you taking the time out of what I'm sure has been a busy week to join us here. If you are able to, please jump on and like, share, subscribe this episode or any other episode that you feel you have gotten some value out of with anybody who you feel might benefit from what we're doing here. Also, while you're there, you can like us on the socials. So we're only on Facebook and Instagram. So the Unstoppable Dad Project on Facebook and at the Unstoppable Dad on Instagram. And you can catch, if you're only listening to this, you can catch the video version of this podcast on YouTube as well. Now, for this week, I wanted to talk about appearance. And it's obviously something that is that plays on a lot of people's minds, right? I want to look a particular way, and a lot of when I've dealt with people and we've talked to people, a lot of that stems from wanting to feel better about themselves because they feel inadequate. And one of the main reasons I want to talk about it today is for me, over the last few months, it's maybe probably going on 6 months now. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that this little bit of this hairline seems to be retracing a little bit on my head, and it's been something that's been playing on my mind a little bit, and obviously been playing on the self-confidence, and it's made me a little bit more self-conscious of what's happening with my hair. But it's just a natural part of aging for a lot of men, and but regardless, the way I felt is the way I felt, and it's something that obviously for dads, and for men as they get older, we do have certain changes in our appearance. But if we look back to, or if I look back on when people generally talk to me about coming and changing something, a lot of the time, the first instance when I ask them what they're looking to achieve, it comes down to looks. It comes down to, I want to lose X amount of weight. I want to look a particular way. I want to get a six pack. I want to do this. I want to do that. And it's all down to physical appearance. And when we start to dig deeper and we start to really look at the underlying reason why, it comes down to their self confidence. Like they want to improve their self confidence and they want to feel better about their appearance. And there can be so many things that feed into that. And obviously, when we are not feeling confident about themselves, that can filter into a whole bunch of other aspects of our life, our interactions we have with our kids, with our wives, with our partners, significant others, neighbors, friends, family, you name it. Like it will have, when you are not feeling confident about yourself and where you are, it can, filter into that. But the title of this show is Your Kids Don't Care How You Look, So Why Should You? And that's the truth. Like, the more that I look at this, and if I'm talking about my particular circumstance that I've got going on now, I'm probably the only one that's really noticed it. But now, obviously, anybody who's listening or watching this will have noticed it as well. But it's it's just part of life and it's part of aging. But my kids don't care how I look. What they do care about is they kind of care about what I can do and what I can do with them. And being physically capable, being able to run around with them, throw them around, take them for walks to the park, take them for a swim, like all these things are all more important to them because it's about the time rather than about how I look. And yes, there's obviously the way I feel about myself, and that's important. But for me, there I know, rightly or wrongly, that I always prioritize the well-being of my family over that of my own, which is such a common thing for dads. I know it's important for me to prioritize time for myself, but in my mind, the way I've been brought up and my ideals and my values, it's more important for me to prioritize the wellness of my family over my own. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't put time aside for my own, because I understand that in order for me looking after myself, it feeds into my ability to look after my family. But when I know that and I know that that's my ideals, it becomes less of an issue when I start to have like self conscious and self critical thoughts, because I know from the point of view of the way I approach my training, the things I do to look after myself, for me, it's just about making myself more physically capable. It is not about aesthetics. It is not about the way I look. It is not about how much I weigh. It is not about, the receding hairline. It's about being more physically capable. So, number one, the time that I am spending with my family is better time. And from the point of view of the way, especially with the age that my kids are at the moment, 6 and 2, it's about the time that I'm spending with them. It's about being able to do things with them. It's about being able to run around in the backyard with them or run around, at the park, not feel like I'm getting puffed out, not feel like I'm unable to continue to doing something because I'm not physically able to do it. That's the focus for me when it comes to everything and it comes to looking at them. And a lot of the time for myself, what I will do is if I find that I'm having self-critical thoughts, I look at it from the point of view of the big picture. Does this really matter for me, big picture? The answer is generally no. But is this going to help feed one of my major overarching life goals, which is to try and be the best father, husband, and dad that I can be? And realistically, when I nail it down to looks and aesthetics, that doesn't really feed that. Now, I believe in setting the example. I believe in setting a healthy example for our kids because, and I've done a podcast on this recently where I talk about actions speaking louder than words. And our kids are going to remember our actions and what we've done before they are going to remember the things that they say, the things that we say. And for me, when I look at appearance and I look at my appearance, and for a lot of dads and a lot of people that I've dealt with over the last decade plus and helped through, while they initially start the conversation looking at appearance and, trying to lose weight and things like that, when we really drill down to it, the reason for that is because there is a feeling of inadequacy with themselves because they are unable to fulfill something else in their life that they want to be able to fulfill. And if it comes down to parents, it may be something of I'm not able to keep up with my kids when we're down at the park. I'm not able to physically fulfill certain things that I want to do as a husband, as a father, as a man, and they tie that into their appearance when in fact it is very rarely has to do with their appearance. It may have to do with their physical capacity, and then when we talk about a plan and things moving forward, it's about increasing their physical capacity in a way that's sustainable so that they can be happy with what they are doing and how they are doing things. Doesn't matter about the weight. And then also with that too, the physical and the mental are tied together, and it's important to make that distinction and make that understanding because you will be able to do more physically if you are mentally happy. And if you're constantly focused on the way you look and how far away from a particular marker of aesthetics that you are, that is not only going to affect you mentally, it's going to affect everyone else around you mentally because that's going to bleed out. But then your ability to perform physically is going to be affected because mentally you're not with it. And I can go into the benefits of movement and exercise and making sure that you're doing that from a mental point of view. I think most of us are aware of that, but the point of what I wanted to get across with today's episode is your kids really don't care how you look, and there's no reason that you should as well. I get that a lot of people want to look better because it will help them feel better about themselves. But I also think that that is a never ending hole where you are constantly going to try and improve things 1 or 2%. And that might be sustainable for a very short period of time, but long term, it's potentially going to cause more angst and anxiety than the potential benefits from just focusing on appearance. Instead, when I work with people, we're focusing more on what they can do. They're improving their physical capabilities because if you focus on that, aesthetically, for a lot of people, things will generally improve, but they'll improve to a point that your body's happy with and you're happy with, and you're able to live a well-rounded, fulfilled life. Okay, but it's not going to become a point of obsession. Maybe the performance side of things becomes a little bit more a guide of where we're going, but we will start to feel better about ourselves because we're able to do more things. And when we understand that from a point of view of being a father, that our kids are more interested in us being firstly happy, but secondly, how we can spend time with them and how we can be active with them, and quality over quantity, I guess, is probably a way to describe it. As much as I know for me, like, I want to spend as much time as possible with my kids, but I think the underlying thing is focusing on how you look when it comes to trying to serve better as a husband and father can be a little bit futile if you are going down that rabbit hole too far. And I think for a lot of us, and I know the audience that I'm speaking to with this, I think for a lot of us on here, even though we may have a goal of looking better, the the underlying reason for that is because we actually want to just be more capable, and we're tying that into our weight. And that's not the case at all. For a lot of us, it actually has less to do with the weight on the scales and a body fat percentage, and more to do with just your physical capabilities to do things. So if you are in that point where you're trying to look to make a change and you think that it's got to do with weight, obviously reach out and talk to somebody, but have a look at what you are doing from a movement point of view. Find something you enjoy to do. That doesn't have to be to the gym. I've spoken multiple times on this podcast about doing jiu-jitsu. That's been a good thing for me. It's been a great thing for me mentally. It's allowed me to get around other men and other people who are very like-minded, where we're pushing. I'm doing something physical. Obviously, the gym is a big part of my life. We've owned and operated one for 10 plus years. For some of you, the gym might be your thing. So etching out that time for you to move, focusing on your physical capabilities rather than just focusing on the overall weight on the scales, because I would almost guarantee that if you're listening to this and you feel like you need to lose weight, if you just start focusing on making yourself more physically capable, and you focus on that and you look at those metrics of success, that the weight goal starts to dissipate at some point when you start to move those physical capability goals a little bit closer to a point where you're happier with the way you're expressing yourself physically, and you become more content with the time that you're able to spend with your children and with your wife and with those other people around you. So if you need help, obviously reach out. No secret, we have a program where we can help. We also have a group which has other dads in it. So if you jump on our Facebook page, you can jump in and add yourself into that free group. I'm about to drop a whole heap of free resources up there around training, nutrition, lifestyle. There's obviously this podcast, which has now been going on for over 6 months. So go back and listen to any of the other episodes, and hopefully you got some value from that. Just remember, your kids don't care how you look. They care whether you're happy, and they care about the time that you spend with them. So focus on that rather than focusing on what's happening with the weight on the scale. So take care. If you got any questions, as always, feel free to reach out. We'll see you all next week. Bye.